Hello, friends. Once again, we're back. UFC Fight Night, Roman Dolidze versus Nassourdine Imavov, a.k.a. UFC Fight Night 85 or something like that. It's going to be a spooky hours. Spooky hours. Start to finish, spooky hours. We're going with a shit ton of underdogs here. There are some canceled matchups that I was looking forward to previously. Actually, I should just say one canceled matchup that was supposed to happen on UFC 296 that I'm very excited for. That is Muslim Salikov versus Randy Brown. Randy Brown, spooky hours for you, brother. We're about to get right into it. I'm sorry that I've been slacking with the videos. If you can see, I look a little fucking disheveled because I actually haven't slept in close to 48 hours. So if I seem scatterbrained or tweaked or fried, whatever it is, there's a little explanation for it. You know, it's a little bit of sleep deprivation. But I stayed up so I can put this fucking video out now, finally, for you. Just for you. Big kiss right off the bat. Let's get right into it. First fight of the night. We have a heavyweight bout. Thomas Peterson versus Jamal Pogues. Now, Thomas Peterson is making his debut. He comes into this fight at 28 years old, 6 foot 1 inches tall, 74-inch reach, matching up with Jamal at the same age, 28 years old. 2 feet taller is Jamal at 6 foot 3 inches tall and a 77-inch reach. So there's a little bit of a height and reach discrepancy in favor of Jamal Pogues. Thomas Peterson is making his UFC debut, like I said before, with an 8-1 record. He has a 5-0 amateur MMA record. He has a 100% finish rate. Jamal Pogues, on the other hand, 10-4. He has a 1-1 record in the UFC. He has fought in the UFC. He has a 1-1 record in LFA as well. He went 0-1 in Bellator, and he has an 8-1 amateur career. Now, Jamal is not as much of a prolific finisher, you could say, as Thomas Peterson, but he's been fighting a different level of competition, and I think that's very fair to say. He's coming off of a decision loss to Mick Parson, Jamal Pogues, where he looked sloppy. We could say that. We can say sloppy. Here's the thing, though. Thomas Peterson looks way sloppier in all of his fights, I think. Like, his striking, his striking is terrifying. Not in a good way. Like, it's terrifyingly bad. And his grappling, that's the thing. He's supposed to, like, you know, take dudes down. All that good shit. The reality of the matter is, in all of his fights, even the dudes that he takes down eventually, he struggles to take them down. He struggles to fucking take them down. There was this large black dude that he fought, a kind of fat black dude, who literally like gave a half-ass sprawl, stopped his takedown. He then got fucking KO'd by Thomas Peterson, but he stopped that takedown, you know. And should have looked this up right before I started this video, but I've heard around the water cooler, so to speak, that Jamal Pogues was a D2 college wrestler. I don't know that for a fact. But on some brilliant idiot shit, we're gonna go with it. We don't fact check shit. Actually, no, we fact check shit. If you're thinking about subscribing and that made you not, we fact check shit. I'm just joking around. But Jamal Pogues is actually going to be the pick. We're going with an underdog right off the bat. We're going with many underdogs tonight. At least Jamal Pogues was an underdog as of making this on February 1st. If you want to know a little bit more about their finishing styles, Thomas Peterson, like I said, has a 100% finish rate with 7 KO TKOs. He has 1 KO TKO loss, and he has a submission win. That's what he's coming off of. He's coming off of his Chandler Cole submission win on Dana White Contender Series, I believe. We're going with Jamal Pogues. Thomas Peterson isn't the worst pick here. These are heavyweights. This fight could end super quick. It could be absolutely dog shit decision. But I think Jamal Pogues is just a better fighter. You know, that's kind of the meme response. So this dude's just a better fighter. The better fighter doesn't always win. In fact, there's going to be a pick. The main event pick might be the opposite of that. But we'll get there. Moving on. Landon Quiñones versus Marquel Maderos. When I said it was spooky hours, I'm not fucking playing. We're going with 2 underdogs back-to-back. Landon Quiñones is the pick. I'll tell you why. Landon Quiñones comes into this fight at 28 years old, 5 foot 9 inches tall, 70-inch reach, matching up with Marquel Maderos, who is 1 year his junior at 27 years old, 5 foot 10 inches tall, 69.5-inch reach. Despite having 1 inch of height over Landon, he has a half-inch reach disadvantage. Now, Marquel Maderos is coming off of a very, very, very nice knockout on the Dana White Contender Series over Isa Isakov, who seemed to be a decent fighter. It was a great win. I think that maybe Marquel wasn't tested enough, and I really haven't watched a lot of Markel's fights. It was kind of hard for me to find him, but for at least just on this is based off really his Contender Series performance. There's always like a little grain of salt that you have to take every kind of finish with, unless they're already an established superstar, I think, because finishes are going to look good, whether it's a submission or a knockout or even like a dude quitting, it's going to look good, it's going to look good. If it looks bad, that's terrifying, but finishes are usually going to be good. There's nothing really, it might be hard to really pick apart things from Marquel Maderos so far, but like, what I think is going to be the deciding factor is actually the way that Landon Quiñones lost his debut fight to Nasrat Haqparast, which is a fucking tall order to have to fight Nasrat on your debut, right? We're not saying he's a world killer, but Nasrat's good. He's good. He's athletic. He's good. He can fight. He'll give a lot of guys a lot of trouble. A lot of dudes would have literally not come off the stool. They would have gotten finished by Nasrat in that fight. Like, it was bad. Landon Quiñones took massive damage, actually. But the thing is, he never fucking quit, and he kept fighting. He has a chin and heart. Landon has a chin and heart. I think he's thinking, this pick also relies a little bit on, like, sports psychology, in a sense. I think Landon knows, like, how important, how urgent he needs a win. Like, he needs this win. He needs this win. He's going to be thinking about it. I hope he lets the fucking dog out. Because Landon Quiñones throws amazing leg kick combinations. He throws actual combinations, too. He doesn't just throw out one or two shots at a time. He throws shots. He's decent enough in the clinch. I'd say the biggest risk to the biggest downfall of Landon Quiñones, and it's actually a real danger in a dude like Marquel Maderos, who does have power in his hands. When Landon defends strikes, he's very content to play it like a boxing style and chill like in his guard. Like he'll put up his guard and he'll just tank shots on the guard, and you cannot be doing that because shots get through. They get through. Nasrat's shots got through eventually. Even though he can block a lot of them, they get through. Shots get through your guard. It's not boxing. Doesn't throw as hard as he maybe should, Landon Quiñones, but he's a volume striker, and I'm okay with that. I do think even for a volume striker, he should be throwing with a little bit more power, but that's like super hard, nebulous, like nitpicking. Like I said, he's coming off of his decision loss to Nasrat Haqparast. He was undefeated. Landon Quiñones was undefeated before this. God damn, I look fucking wild. But Nasrat handed him his first loss in his career. Landon Quiñones, their records. Landon Quiñones right now is 7-2, and he has a draw. He has 7 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw. He is 0-1 in the UFC, like I said. He got his 1 draw in Bellator, and that was his only fight. So he has an 0-1 record in Bellator. And he had a 3-3 amateur record. He has 5 wins by KO, TKO, 1 submission win. He has 1 decision win, and 2 decision losses. He picked up one of those decision losses in the UFC. His only 2 losses are by decision. Marquel Maderos, on the other hand. Oh, I should say also another little interesting fact. Neither of these dudes have been finished. I think this is going to be a good fight. I do think we're going to see someone finished. I do not think this is going to go the distance. And if it does go the distance, I think Landon Quiñones is walking away with this run. But I think maybe we're going with Landon Quiñones. Whenever I go with picks, I'm basically saying money line. Like, I'm just picking the dude. I'm not a sniper. I can't pick, like, round and fucking method of victory. But I will throw this one out for fun. I'm going with Landon Quiñones, either round 3 KO, TKO, or decision. I was about to say or submission, but then you might as well there's no point. Moving on, Landon Quiñones, second pick, second underdog. We move on to the third fight of the night. Women's flyweight fight. We got Julija Stoliarenko, very deceptive, versus Luana Dread Carolina, also very deceptive. This fight is, in my opinion, a fucking spiritual successor to Malcolm Gordon versus Jimmy Flick, and it's like coming back to fucking haunt me. But I'm not going to not make that mistake. Picking Malcolm Gordon was not a mistake in that fight. If you picked Malcolm Gordon, you did not make a mistake. Not gonna. I was coping hard in saying it was a fluke win. It wasn't a fluke win, but it. I digress. Fuck that. We're not even gonna talk about that anymore. Julija Stoliarenko. We'll start off with Julija. Quite like Julija, she has a very deceptive record. We'll start off with the physicals. Both of these women come into this fight at 30 years old. Julija 1 inch taller at 5'7" tall, 69-inch reach for her as well. Luana matches that reach, and she is 1 inch shorter at 5'6". Julija is a minor favorite in this fight. Julija is the pick, even though I initially picked Luana Carolina. Luana is hot dog water, unfortunately. She's hot dog water. At one point, she might have been Dicer, but she's hot dog water now. Julija, actually, despite having bad losses, she does look like she's getting better with her fights. I don't know what to say. Like, she looks like she's getting better with her fights. If you look at her stats, Julia's coming into this fight with an 11-win, 7-loss, and 1-draw record. 2 of those wins, 5 of those losses have come in the UFC, so she's had a total of 7 UFC fights. Decent. Luana Carolina has matched her 7 UFC fights, however, has less fights in her career in total. She has 9 wins, 4 losses, 4 of those wins, 3 of those losses coming in the UFC. Now, here are some spookier stats. Julija has no wins and 3 losses by KO TKO. Luana has 2 KOs, 2 KO TKOs, and 1 loss by KO TKO, obviously happening in the UFC at the hands of Molly McCann. Now, everyone should have seen that. You will see that even if you have not seen it. If you just watch the fights, I promise you they will show that highlight when Molly McCann fights. Despite Julia's 11-7 and like 2-5 UFC record, I think she's actually deceptively good. I think this girl gets actually kind of the short end of the stick a lot. She's coming off of a submission win over Molly McCann where she violated her with her bread and butter. That first round armbar that she goes aggressively for, that's her shit. That's her game. If she can get you like that, on the ground, Julija has to be respected. Same as Jimmy Flick. On the feet, it's a little spooky because, I think Julija actually is not horrible. In fact, she's decent enough striking. It's just, I don't know. I've never seen someone with like such fucked up like timing. Like, it's her timing that I think is her biggest downfall, both offensively and defensively. It's spooky hours. She was a finalist on Tough despite losing, Julija was, and she also lost in the final, but she is strong. I think she's actually pretty big, even though these girls are similarly sized. I think Julija just is like bigger. She just carries a little bit more mass. We're going with Julija. Julija is a favorite in this one, which I think is scary. Which I think is scary. She was a favorite in the I forget her name. I want to say Chelsea Chandler. It was the chick that was fleeing from Norma Dumont. Which I love. I love when there's a chase scene. Chase scenes are fire. But that girl was getting kind of whooped by Julija until the power of Chelsea Chandler started to really show. And that's Julia's number one. That's Julia's kryptonite, is just power. Power strikes that can land on her will change the fight completely. I don't think Luana will have that, even though Luana has kind of her own awkward, like little style, little striking style, throwing out these long punches. But I really think Julija has what it takes to get this one done, and in extremely decisive fashion. I would say maybe possibly little round 1 armbar submission for Julija. In possibly their first engagement, they clash. Spooky scramble, chaos. Julija ends up on top, taking the arm. Quick work. That's what I hope for. We do not know. Luana is still a valid dog to take, low-key. She's coming off of her decision win against Ivana Petrovic. She does have the highlight KO loss to Molly McCann. That's enough about that fight, I actually think. Julija is the pick. Moving on to spooky hours. The first real spooky hours of the night. We have a featherweight men's bout in Blake Bilder versus Jung-Young Lee, the Korean Tiger. Jung-Young Lee is the winner of a recent tournament called Road to UFC, an Asian tournament, and he is now in the UFC. The only problem is that his last opponent, who he beat in the finale of Road to UFC, Ija, spelled Yi, spelled Y-I-Z-H-A, space in between those, it's pronounced E. Ija. If you watched his fight against Ija, that was something that Michael Bisping said in the first 10 seconds. He was like, it's pronounced E. Ija. Same thing with like a Temba Garimbo. It's Temba Garimbo, not Themba. Temba. But Again, this is why people say shit. They don't want to say Jack Della Maddalena's name. They're like JDM. People struggle with this, but it's okay. It's okay. I digress. I went on a little rant. Blake Builder versus Jung Young Lee. We got a great fight here. Blake Builder was undefeated. He is a dog in sense of just him being scrappy, very explosive. You know, he's not going to quit. He's coming off of his first loss to Kyle Nelson by decision, who beat him, he did a good job. He beat him. Kyle Nelson looked very good in that fight. Blake Builder's coming into this fight at 33 years old, 5 years older than Jung Young Lee, which is notable. We can't ignore that. He's 5'8" inches tall, 68.5 inches of reach. Jung Young Lee, like I said, is 28 years old, so 5 years his junior, 5'10" inches tall, 2 inches taller than Blake Builder, and he has a 4.5 inch reach advantage. We cannot ignore that at 73 inches. Excuse me. Jung Young Lee enters this fight with a 10-1 record, 1-0 in the UFC, 3-0 amateur record. Possibly, you can argue, it should be 9-2, and he shouldn't be in the UFC. But it's not. Blake Builder matches up with that with an 8-1-1 record, 1-1 in the UFC. He also had a 7-0 amateur career before this. So before his last fight, he was on a 15 fight win streak, including amateur. He's a Dana White Contender Series graduate. Blake Builder is, like I said, extremely athletic and explosive. The only problem is Jung Young Lee is also very athletic and explosive. What I did notice, and I feel like people aren't talking about it, Ija gassed him the fuck out. In the end of the third round of that Ija fight, Jung Young Lee is gassed as fuck. If there was another round, Jung Young Lee might not even make it off the fucking stool. He's literally on the ground. Like, it was craziness. I wrote this down. His plan will get him killed, because there was something that they said in that Ija fight. He had like a plan about fight. Oh, no, I remember what it is. It's his plan for call-outs. He called out like a crazy string of people. He called out like someone. Oh, so he calls out Dan Ige. Sure. But then he called out like, he was like, after Dan Ige, Ilia Topuria, and then like fucking Volk. I was like, brother, your plan's gonna get you fucking killed. It's gonna get you killed. You're not gonna survive Ilia. Like, it's that, brother. There's levels. There's levels to this shit. There are levels to this shit. Okay? Jung Young Lee's one loss was by decision. He avenged his own loss by KOing the fucking dude who gave it to him, Se-Young Kim. He's fought okay comp, at least records-wise. You could say those dudes are cans, but hey. I don't know why I wrote this. Oh, yes. Another huge thing about the Ija fight. There was a literal fight-changing illegal strike that was delivered by Jung Young Lee when they were in a grappling exchange or like a mount or something. The position got taken from Ija for no fucking reason, and I think that fight goes a completely different way if Ija gets that position and he keeps it. Ija is a good fighter. Jung Young Lee has speed and power in his hands. Very nice hooks and uppercuts. That's probably my favorite thing about him. He got gassed. The win is questionable over Ja. Blake Builder, though. I ultimately think he had a fantastic submission against... Jesus Christ. Against his opponent on the Dana White Contender Series. Here's the thing. I don't know if he'll be able to recreate that success that he had with the grappling with Jung Young Lee. I think Jung Young Lee can match at least his explosiveness, and I don't think there's his physicality, and I don't think there's enough of a skill difference maybe for him to just straight up dominate Jung Young Lee and submit him powerfully. And that's ultimately why we're going with Jung Young Lee. I want to pick Blake Builder, but I can't. I gotta go with Jung Young Lee. Both dudes have never been finished. I think that will come to an end. We gotta go with Jung Young Lee, though. Moving on to another fight that I personally am just very, very interested in. I always love watching Temba Garimbo fight. I love Temba Garimbo, man. Just something about him, it's funny. Like, he's a very unique dude. I think he just, it's just everything about him. And I'm going to get a little bit to more of some of his, mannerisms and stuff in a sec. So, Temba Garimbo versus Pete Rodriguez. Pete Rodriguez, if you'll remember, I think stepped up on late notice. He really shouldn't be in the UFC. He stepped up on late notice to fight Jack Della Maddalena, I believe, and got KO'd. Now, he does have an age advantage of 6 years. Temba's coming into this fight at 33 years old, 6 foot 1 inches tall, 77-inch reach, matching up with Pete, who is 27 years old, 5 foot 9 inches tall, 73-inch reach. So there is a notable height and reach advantage for Temba, but Pete has a little bit of youth over him. Pete's coming off of a KO win over Mike Jackson. We're not going to... This isn't a Mike Jackson fucking hate segment. Just look up Mike Jackson. If you remember, this is the dude that fought CM Punk along with Mickey Gall, who also got murked by Mickey Gall. So that win is however impressive to you as it really is. Whatever that win means to you, that's what it means. Doesn't mean a lot to me. Does not mean a lot to me. He's 5-1. 1-1 in the UFC. Meaning that he fucking came into the UFC at 4-0. Right? Terrifying. 7-2 amateur record, decent. Really, we're going with Temba because I think this fight goes to the ground and Temba just violates him there. But also Temba, who has an 11-4, 1-1 UFC record, 1-1 amateur record, has unbelievably slick grappling. He's a grappler mainly, but his striking is deceptive. If you watch his last fight, he's coming off of a win over Takeshi Sato, unanimous decision win over Takeshi Sato. He dropped the fuck out of Takeshi Sato, dropped him like a fucking bad habit in round 2, I want to say, and like off rip. As soon as the round started, as soon as the first engagement, first encounter, dropped the fuck out of him. Dropped the fuck out of him. He got caught by AJ Fletcher, that is Temba, in his debut. Now, AJ Fletcher's a great fighter, very physical also. They had an extremely close fight. It was extremely close. However, the end... If you see, he got submitted. Temba got submitted by AJ. AJ's extremely strong, has slick jiu-jitsu of his own, and hurt Temba just a tiny bit. He didn't hurt him like devastatingly bad, but he clipped him with like an elbow inside the clinch, which kind of caught Temba at like a millisecond, like a blink of an eye, right before Temba was going to try to shoot down for a takedown, it seemed. He got clipped, and then it just like really looked bad. He got overpowered and caught. That is what it is. That is what it is. There's no shame in that. In fact, I don't hate that loss. I don't hate that loss. He does get thrown, and what I mean by thrown is like he'll get like hip tossed and shit like that. But what I do like about his grappling, aside from it just being slick, I think that's a good word to describe it, slick, is he attacks legs. He will attack legs. He straight up attacks legs if that's what's given to him. He'll attack legs. He attacks off of his back. You know, he's not just trying to escape. He's not just trying to stall. He's attacking. He's attacking with his jiu-jitsu. I really like that. We're going with Temba. Temba's a decent favorite in this fight, you know. And this is good because I think this fight really only goes, like... I think either one dude finishes the other. Either Pete KOs him, Temba maybe KOs him, but he probably submits him. We move on. Hopefully not a fucking dog shit decision. Moving on, Inner G, Charles Johnson versus Azat Maxim. Now this is also spooky hours, but for a different reason. This has all the telltale signs of a fucking parlay trap, of a Vegas parlay trap. Now, with that said, we are still going with Azat Maxim. Azat Maxim is undefeated at 17-0. He has 1 win in the UFC. He has 5 KO TKOs, 6 submission victories, and 5 decisions. One of those came in the UFC. Now, Charles Johnson, on the other hand, has a 13-6 record. 2-4 in the UFC, 6-1 in LFA, impressive LFA record, 4-2 amateur record. He does have a boxing record of 0 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw. Now, both of these dudes seem well-rounded, and this isn't a gimme fight for Azat Maxim at all. That's the thing. This is not a gimme fight. Charles Johnson is on a really bad run, low-key, just on paper at least. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, all decisions. He had a very good win over Jimmy Flick, but Jimmy Flick is not known for his striking, and we know that already. Like, Malcolm Gordon violates Jimmy Flick on the feet all day. Charles Johnson TKO'd fucking Jimmy Flick. Azat Maxim, though, is fucking spooky hours physically. The split decision win over Tyson Nam is actually... That's decent, I like that. But just go to Azat's fucking Tapology page and look at his hand. Just look at his fucking knuckles. Like, look at his hand and his knuckles. That shit is spooky as fuck. Azat's the pick. Not really a lot of thought going into this one. I'm not too excited for this one. Azat's a decent favorite. That's also why this is another parlay trap, just because I think it's not that enticing. They want you to just pick Azat and move on, but we're going to pick Azat and move on. Moving on, number 7. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Spooky hours. Spooky hours, but for a different reason. No, actually, no. This is regular spooky hours. This is regular spooky hours. We have Molly McCann versus Diana Belbica. I think that's how you say her name. Belbica. Molly McCann comes into this fight at 33 years old, 5'4" tall, 6. Ooh, actually, let me backtrack a little bit because I don't know if I read off Charles Johnson and Azat Maxims. If I did, I'll just read it off one more time. Charles Johnson's coming into this fight at 33 years old, 5'9" tall, 70-inch reach. Azat is matching up with him at 28 years old, 5'7" and a 7-inch reach. So there's a 2-inch height advantage for Charles Johnson. 5-year age gap in favor of Azat Maxim. We cannot ignore that. Both these men have the same reach. Back to Molly McCann versus Diana Belbica, who we will just be calling Diana from now on. Molly McCann comes into this fight, like I said, at 33 years old, 5'4" tall, 6'2", 62-inch reach. 5'2" reach. Diana matches up with her 6 years, her junior, 27 years old, 68-inch reach, a 6-inch reach advantage. That's impressive. We got to remember that. Hope y'all didn't see that. And she is 5'7". A little bit taller, a little bit longer, and younger. Not a little bit younger, younger. Diana Belbica is a decent underdog. She's a juicy underdog in this fight. Their records match up. Molly has a record of 13-6, 6-5 in the UFC. Not bad. 3-0 amateur record. Diana matches up not as successful with a 15-8 record. 2-4 in the UFC. Now, she did fought Molly McCann back in 2019, actually on my birthday, October 18th. That's my birthday. In 2019, they fought each other. Molly won by unanimous decision. Diana Belbica herself is coming off a unanimous decision loss to Karolina Kowalkiewicz, which was a good loss to have because I actually like Karolina Kowalkiewicz. The only thing is some of her other losses are extremely suspect. They're bad losses. They are fucking bad losses. But we're going to kind of ignore those type shit. We're just going to scroll over them. Scroll over them. Now, Diana Belbica, I think, gets better in fights as they go on. There's 2 huge problems. She struggles in the pocket and in the clinch. Badly, actually. And she doesn't fucking let her hands go. If she let her hands go, I think she'd have a lot more success. We're going with Diana Belbica here, and honestly, it's a little emotional. I don't know why. It's just kind of a vibe. It's just kind of a vibe to pick Diana Belbica for this fight. Something's telling me to. Molly McCann herself is coming off of a first-round submission loss to Julija Stoliarenko. There's really no shame in that because that's her bread and butter. That is her game. Very hyped fighter, but she is fucking mids. I think that's like not even an open secret. If you follow the sport, she's just fucking mids. Her grappling is her biggest weakness, but she has been practicing her grappling. If you look at her Tapology, she's been entering some grappling tournaments. She's been competing, you know. I don't expect Diana Belbica to just come out there and sub her, but I do think Diana Belbica has a better ground game than Molly McCann. But we'll have to see. We will have to see. There's not a lot I'm going to say about this one. It's really just my pick and why I think she will win. It's also mainly emotional. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to have emotional picks sometimes. Sometimes. It's not bad at all, you know. Gilbert Urbina, moving on. Gilbert Urbina versus Charles Radke. Now, this is tough, but we are going with Gilbert Urbina. I think Gilbert Urbina is a much better fighter than Charles Radke. He's younger, bigger, little longer too. Gilbert Urbina has shown us good stuff so far. He's coming off that KO-TKO of Orion Kosk. You know, and I picked Orion actually in that fight because I fucking had a massive brain fart and I forgot who Gilbert Urbina literally was. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I forgot how nice he was or his potential. Like, no, I actually confused him with a completely other fighter, didn't do my research, and I picked Orion, and then I was like, oh, shit. Oh, shit. Charles Radke is decent enough and has decent grappling, like, enough that maybe it's a problem, but, he struggled against fucking Blood Diamond, right? That's the dude who struggled against Blood Diamond, right? So, like, what does that mean? What the fuck does that mean, brother? Like, yeah, Gilbert Urbina's the pick there. That's gonna be a quick one. This is also gonna be a super quick one. Aliaskab Kizriev. I'm not sure how you say that. Aliaskab Kizriev. Yeah, Aliaskab Kizriev versus Mahmoud Muradov. Mahmoud has an insanely veteran record at 26-8. He's 4-2 in the UFC. He has a spooky hour method of victory trend at 17 wins, 1 loss by KO TKO. 2 of those have come in the UFC. So a third of his wins have come, or half of his wins have come by KO TKO in the UFC. He's 3-4 when it comes to submissions, 6-3 when it comes to decisions. He's coming off unanimous decision win over Brian Barberena. He's 33 years old, 6'2" tall, 75.5-inch reach. So he will have a slight reach and height advantage over Aliaskab Kizriev, the fat Khabib, basically, who is undefeated at 14-0, 1-0 in the UFC, 1-0 amateur record, 5 KO TKOs, 4 submissions. He picked up 1 in the UFC, and he picked up 1 in the Dana White Contender Series to get to the UFC. And he's coming off of a 2022 win, so it's hard to say coming off, but his last win was in 2022 versus Dennis Taluli, and he's taking some time off. I'm not exactly too sure why. Again, I didn't research this one that hard enough, but I think we're going to go with Aliaskab. I actually initially picked Mahmoud because I think Mahmoud is actually an amazing underdog to have in this fight. I still think he is. I just think if this fight gets to the ground, which it probably will, it's going to be over. It's going to be over. On some... sorry, lads. On some Khabib shit. So we're going with Aliaskab. Moving on to what's not exactly spooky hours in the traditional sense, we have Viviane Araújo, or Araujo. I don't know how you say her name. Araujo. I'm not sure. Versus Natalia Silva. I've seen Natalia Silva basically have like 6 fucking names. Like, I've seen 6 different versions of her name. I don't know what it is. We're going with Natalia Silva, the one that shows up online. There is, right off the bat, the biggest difference. The thing that should stick out to you the most is age here. Viviane's coming into this fight at 37 years old, 5'4", 68-inch reach. Natalia matches up 11 years her junior at 26 years old with a 5'4" reach. 65 inches, or 5'4" reach. 5'4" tall height. 65-inch reach. Now, excuse me, like I said, I was fucking tweaking. I've been up for close to 2 days straight. Gotta have that little coffee. Just set me straight. Just a little coffee and a little something else. Now, what I'm really concerned about, even though we actually, with Natalia Silva, we don't have as much of a reason to be concerned like we do with a Casey O'Neill. Natalia Silva has shown us that she actually has trained. She has technique. She can finish girls. She looks very good when she fights. She actually looks very promising, like she might be the next big thing. Will she get fraud checked? I highly doubt it. That's really kind of all that we're going to say about this one. Viviane Araújo's entire UFC record has been, UFC career has been decisions only. She's 5-4 in the UFC, 5 wins by decision, 4 losses by decision. She's 12-5 overall. She is actually, she's 6-4 in the UFC. She has 1 KO TKO in the UFC. And that was her first one. Long time ago. Both of these women, too, I didn't write this down, but they've been training, or at least not training. They've been fighting for the same amount of time. I believe Natalia Silva started fighting when she was 17, and Viviane started fighting when she was 28. They've both been fighting for 9 years. I like Natalia Silva starting very young. I like that a lot, Natalia Silva's the pick here. She's one of the biggest favorites on the card. She might be the biggest favorite on the card, actually, and it's for good reason. Moving on to a fight that I've been... So, Natalia Silva's the pick there. Moving on to a fight that I've been fucking absolutely hyped for. I wanted to see this fight before. This was supposed to be the first preliminary bout on UFC 296. That bout being Randy the Rude Boy Brown versus Muslim Salikov. You gotta get scared. This was the OG Vegas trap back on UFC 296. Muslim Salikov is gonna take this one by brutal, spectacular knockout, I think. If you look on my little page, I think it's going to be mirror flipped. You're not going to see any research done. You're only going to see their names, right? You will see I drew some symbols by Muslim's name and earlobe. Now, the earlobe means, an earlobe, yes, I said earlobe. The earlobe means, I've already reviewed this fight. This fight got canceled. Like I said, back in UFC 296, Randy Brown and Muslim Salikov were supposed to start off the night. The odds are pretty much the same, if anything, a little bit more in favor of Muslim Salikov this time around. Some people caught around. Now, Randy Brown is actually pretty skilled. There's really, my problems with Randy Brown come with his style itself, with kind of the way, his mannerisms in the cage. Randy Brown acts like he is the most elusive fucking fighter to have ever stepped in the cage, and if one punch misses him, not he weaves it, not he dodges it, just if punches misses, he'll start shaking his head, you know, like looking, like putting his arms up, showing the space, like all that shit, and then guess what? He gets fucking clipped when trying to do that shit. Most notably, the Jack Della Maddalena fight. Now, you might say, hey, that's Jack Della Maddalena. That's not Muslim Salikov. Guess what? It won't matter. He's going to get caught in the same fucking fashion. It doesn't matter even if Randy Brown is putting more volume, more output on him as this fight starts. Muslim Salikov has a fucking deep bag. He has the Santa Claus bag of fucking spinning technique, devastating knockout techniques. I don't give a fuck about what you're talking about. I don't give a fuck about the ages. We're gonna talk about the ages right now, actually. Randy Brown, 33 years old, 6 foot 2 inches tall, 78-inch reach, insanity. Muslim Salikov, 39 years old, 5 foot 9 and a 70-inch reach. You might be thinking, holy shit, Cole, 5-inch height advantage, fucking 8-inch reach disadvantage. How can you pick that guy? Guess what? Randy Brown makes some of the most head-ass decisions you've ever seen in the cage sometimes. The only thing is you just might not have ever fucking watched it. Now, on paper, Randy Brown wins this fight. Like I'm saying, he has every physical advantage. He has youth, he has height, he has reach. And that's huge. That's huge. I'd say, like, if you were to just somehow, like, get, like, a random, like, true win chance, you know, like the percentage chance based off odds, it's probably somewhere around, like, 80% for Randy Brown or something like that. But the thing is, despite all the moving around, all the head movement you see, Randy Brown has zero fucking head movement. He has zero fucking head movement, okay? That's his downfall, actually. Against the fucking sniper Muslim Salikov. I'm getting amped because Muslim Salikov, I feel it in my bones. What I really hated about this fight is that it was canceled. I think, if this fight took place in UFC 296, we would have seen a KO off the bat of Randy Brown at the hands of Muslim Salikov, or the feet of Muslim Salikov. But Muslim Salikov, I don't give a fuck. I still like this fight. Muslim Salikov has a better chin than Randy Brown. Maybe age, maybe just that little time gap has made it worse. I don't know. And I'm not trying to cope preemptively, but Muslim Salikov also has heart and toughness. He also has sneaky power. Fuck the spinning techniques. He has sneaky power in his hands. You want to know what he also has that Muslim Salikov doesn't? Fucking head movement. He can weave. Okay? We might see some differences. It might look a little spooky in the beginning for our boy Muslim. But we're going with Muslim Salikov. I'm actually very confident on that pick. You know, I'll look like a fool if Muslim Salikov just gets smoked. So that's the pick. Muslim Salikov. Records are 19-4 versus 17-5 for Muslim Salikov and Randy Brown, respectively. Moving on to the co-main lightweight men's fight. Renato Money Moicano won money versus Drew Dober. Now, as much as this pains me, I picked Renato Moicano. I have to switch, though. I have to switch to Drew Dober, and it's just because of a power thing. I think we're going to see a recreation of not the entire fight of Rafael Fiziev versus Renato Moicano, but the knockout sequence, I think, is going to look eerily similar to maybe some shit that Drew Dober can pull off. Drew Dober's coming into this fight at 35 years old, decent 5'8", 70-inch reach. Renato's 1 year younger at 34, 5 foot 11 inches tall. As 72-inch reach, so slight height and reach advantage over Drew Dober, and a 1 year younger. Nothing too crazy. Both of these guys are veterans of the UFC and just in general. Hanato's last win was at the end of 2022 over Brad Riddell. He got a nice little first-round submission. There should be a massive advantage on the ground for Hanato. It's just I don't know if it's going to get to the ground. Hanato actually, he has takedowns. I don't know if the takedowns are good enough necessarily for Drew Dober. Drew Dober's coming off of a first-round KO TKO of Ricky Glenn. Prior to that, you will probably remember he was brutally knocked out by Matt the Steamroller Frivola. We're going with Drew Dober just on power. I'm switching from Hanato. I'm sorry, Hanato. I want Hanato in my heart to win, but I don't think he will win. I gotta say it. Hanato on his own fucking Money Moicano channel says that about fighters that he knows and trains with in real life, so it is what it is. It is what it is. I will take another sip of coffee and another little sidebar before we wrap this up with the main event. Main event being Roman Dolidze versus Nassourdine Imavov. Two people I've never really seen fight. I'm not fans of them. But that does not mean I hate them. I just don't consume their fights. That was not a kiss, so don't take that, motherfucker. Do not take that, motherfucker. That was not a kiss. Okay. Roman Dolidze versus Nassourdine Imavov. Now, off rip, I liked Nassourdine Imavov, but I have to go with Roman Dolidze. Why am I going with Roman Dolidze? I think Roman Dolidze is a bit more of a lethal fighter. And if you'll remember in the beginning of this video, I was talking about better fighters maybe not being the ones to win. This, I think, is going to be one of those fights. I think Nassourdine Imavov is a better fighter, is a much cleaner, a better martial artist than Roman Dolidze, maybe. Mixed martial artist, I should say. We'll start off with the physical stats, actually. So there's a very spooky age gap here. Roman Dolidze's coming into this fight at 35 years old, 6'2" tall, 76-inch reach. Nassourdine Imavov matches up with him physically pretty well, but he is 27 years old, so 8 years younger. 6'3", 75-inch reach. So 1 inch reach disadvantage despite being 1 inch taller. That's okay. We've seen that a couple times on this card. Roman Dolidze has a 12-2 record. 6 of those wins, 2 of those losses have come in the UFC. He has 7 wins by KO TKO. 4 of those came in the UFC. That is something to note. 3 submission wins, and he has good jiu-jitsu. You should know this about Roman Dolidze. He actually has good jiu-jitsu, and he'll use it maybe not even to finish you, but to set up another finish with the hands. He's 2-2 when it comes to decision. Both of those wins and losses, all of those wins and losses, I should say, came in the UFC. He's coming off of a unanimous decision loss to Marvin Vettori. The Iron Chin, you know, that is what it is. Marvin Vettori isn't dog shit. Nassourdine Imavov, though, is coming off of a no contest to Chris Curtis that he was doing very well in that fight beforehand. Prior to that, he lost to Sean Strickland, which that loss really only ages better over time. He lost to the champion before he became, like right before he became the champion, essentially, very soon. He would become the champion very soon after. Nassourdine Imavov has a 12-4 record with 1 no contest. He's 4-2 in the UFC with 1 no contest. 5 wins by KO TKO. 2 of those came in the UFC. He's 4-1 when it comes to submissions, so he has been finished before. Roman has not been finished, and he is 3-3 when it comes to decisions. 2 of those wins, 2 of those lost decisions have come in the UFC. Like I said, I think he's the better fighter, Nassourdine, at least. But we're going with Roman. I think Roman just has the power, has the lethality, the brutality to finish this fight, to beat Nassourdine, you know, just in one exchange, not by brutal knockout maybe, but just one exchange. He will, by the end of it, just be in a finishing sequence. You know, that's, if you can get what I'm saying here. It might be quick, not the most in-depth breakdown for the main event, but I think that's ultimately what's going to happen here. We're going with Roman Dolidze, another underdog. I'm going to recap all my picks and whether they were the dog or the favorite real quick. And just for fucking shits and giggles, I'm going to throw in a little round and method of victory as well. So we're going with Jamal Pogues, first fight of the night. He is an underdog. We're going with round 1. Now, you might be spooked about the round 1. I think he's going to catch Thomas Peterson. Round 1 KO TKO. We're iffy on that one, though. Again, don't harp too much on my fucking rounded method of victory pick, please. Landon Quiñones, another underdog. Round 3 KO TKO. Now, initially I was going to follow up with Luana Carolina, but fuck that. We're going with Julija Stoliarenko. Round 1 armbar submission. She is the favorite in this fight. Jung Young Lee. Jesus. Jung Young Lee. He's the favorite. We're going with another round 1 KO TKO. I think that he will. Something that I actually realized I didn't really mention now is Brad Riddell. Fucking Blake Builder. Blake Builder, when he defends strikes, sometimes he just takes them. Like, he moves his hands away from his face, like a little bit up, and shots come through. Blake Builder also almost always gets clipped when he's trying to retreat out of the pocket, out of striking exchanges. He gets tagged fleeing. I think Jung Young Lee will be able to capitalize on that, and that might be his downfall. Moving on, Temba Garimbo, favorite, round 1 sub. I think this fight goes to the ground super quick, gets it done. Moving on, Azad Maxim, he's the favorite. We're going for him by decision, actually. You know, I don't know if he'll maybe get Charles Johnson out of there. That might be dog shit. But so we're going with decision. Diana Belbicha. Again, underdog. I don't want to pressure this shit and be like, finish, KO, TKO. So I'm going to go with a decision for Diana Belbicha. Moving on, Gilbert Urbina, he's the favorite. We're going round 2 KO, TKO. I think Charles Radke's maybe a little bit gassed, a little bit demoralized, frustrated with not being able to get his game plan working, and Gilbert just is able to finish him in a sequence against maybe the cage with the hands. Initially, I picked Mahmoud Maradov for the next fight, but we switched over Aliaskab Khizriev. He is the favorite. I actually don't have a decision, a method of victory for him. But I will say, I don't know what round, I'm going to say KO, TKO, a little asterisk, but by ground and pound. Ground and pound TKO. For Aliaskab Khizriev. Moving on, Natalia Silva, favorite. Round 1 or 2, I wrote KO, TKO, maybe by head kick. Or head kick sequence, head kick combination. Muslim Salikov, big underdog. We're going with a round 2 KO, TKO by spinning fucking wheel kick. Not by spinning wheel kick, but KO, round 2 KO, TKO, Muslim Salikov. Let's go, brother. Let's go, brother. We're riding heavy on that shit. We got Drew Dober, the dog. I'm going again with another round 2 KO TKO for Drew Dober. Finishing it off with Roman Dolidze. I'm actually going with a submission. Round 2 submission. Roman Dolidze. I think that maybe they'll get into a spooky exchange. Maybe Nassourdine Imavov gets hurt by the power of Roman Dolidze. In a scramble, in the chaos, he's able to pick up a little sub. And that is it. I will have more videos coming out very soon. I'm going to try to do spooky hours videos. I'm also going to have other videos like maybe book reviews. It might sound crazy to just hear that just after I'm fucking talking about fights, then going to book reviews. But, you know, I like to read. I've been reading more and more. Recently, I've gone back into reading, I should say. Just finished, for the first time, Truman Capote's original Breakfast at Tiffany's. I actually thought it was very strange, but also kind of brilliant. Like, it was very weird, but that was nice. I'm not going to talk about it here too much because, actually, like I said, I've been up for fucking 40 hours, and actually, I literally have to end this video and get to class. That's it. Those are the picks. If you've watched to this point, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I think it's going to be a decent night of fights. It could be bad. I think it's going to be the night of the dog, though. We picked a lot of underdogs here. We picked 6 underdogs, if I'm correct, out of 13 fights. So almost half underdogs. That's fucking... You should get scared, honestly, if you ever have your picks coming out like that. But I feel good. I feel good about it. I think it should be a great night of fights. Again, I'm so sorry. This fucking video is coming so late on Thursday. God damn it. I wanted to make this video on Tuesday, but I've literally been up since fucking Tuesday. Just... Oh, God. Oh, God. Anyways, I hope you guys have a absolutely wonderful Thursday, wonderful rest of the week. I hope the fights are amazing. Spend some time with your loved ones. Pray for peace on earth and goodwill to all men. Hope you enjoyed. Big kiss.